Hi everyone, welcome back to the radio show. We definitely appreciate you guys watching. Today we're going to talk about prepping, and prepping is one of those things that I do. A lot of you guys prep as well, and I got my good buddy here, the Alabama Owens, that I've been prepping for years, got a lot of experience. So he's going to be giving his take and giving some of his advice as well. So with that said, let's do an intro. Alabama Owens, tell us about your channel, any other social media sites and things like that.
All right, I'm the Alabama Owens. I do YouTube videos. I'm a gun guy, prepper, not an expert on anything, but have fun with it, and it's things that I do in my normal life. And about the same time as JH6, I said, hey, I'm doing this stuff anyway, so let's put it on YouTube and share it. So been prepping for quite a while, actually. Probably even before I knew that I was a Boy Scout growing up, so be prepared. So it's always just kind of been a way of life for me, and I picked up more into it in the last few years, and I think it's something that it's important for all of us to do. I think it's something that we're called to do.
Yeah. Isn't that funny? Sometimes you do something and then you actually find out that they actually have a name for that. You
Right.
just do things.
Right.
And, so you guys call us this name? Oh, okay. Got it. Roger that.
Exactly.
But the reason why I came out with this title and I talked to you about doing this this episode is because I was actually on a chat with Matt from Resist the Tyranny, and I'm gonna put his channel below. He has a great channel, but he was actually talking about 2015 and some of the things that could happen in 2015, and he asked a question. He asked a question to the guys there on the chat saying, what do you think is going to happen? And I got to tell you, my answer to that is that anything can happen. I mean, we're seeing issues with other countries in Russia where we know Russia pretty much doesn't care anything that the United States says, and they're going to do whatever they want. We see them having connections with guys like China, active shooter situations here in the United States. We're seeing ISIS terrorizing many different countries and killing many different people, according to the belief, or if you're Christian or if you don't want to convert into Muslim or whatever, they will kill you. So definitely those guys have the money to finance a terrorist attack in the United States. So my answer to him was that we don't know what's going to happen. Everything from the government shutdown, of Obama doing whatever he wants to do. So my advice would be prep now. Start prepping.
Definitely.
And yeah, what do you think about that?
Well, and like you said, we have no idea what to be prepared for. To me, a lot of preppers will specialize in some area. I'm prepping for a EMP or a CME, or I'm prepping for a Chinese invasion. North Korea. North Korea is becoming a very real threat. There's just so many possibilities. But me, I'm in Alabama. I'm in Tornado Alley. That's a very real thing that in my area people prep for, and people don't even realize they're preppers, and they are, because most people in this part of the country are preparing for a tornado, some type of natural disaster. Most areas of the country, where you are, you've got the threat of hurricanes.
Mm-hmm.
It's just something that it should be something that should almost be a lifestyle for you. It should be something that you're ready to be ready for anything.
Yeah. No, I definitely agree with you, and that's something that we do. And when I answer that question, I pretty much would say that if you're a man and if you're a woman, I'm not gonna go into man or girl or whatever, but if you're a leader of your house and you refuse to prep, I definitely believe that you're putting your family in danger. Like you have to be prepared to face some type of situation. And a lot of guys think like you said, I love that you said that we need to prep for Chinese people coming from the sky, and that is not the true at all.
Right.
I mean, basic preparation to last you a month. I mean,
Right.
we ain't talking about 10 years, which 10 years is the best, but do you have enough food to sustain yourself for a month, or maybe, at the best,
Right.
3 months. That's something that not a lot of people do.
Well, and that's something that if you look back just 2 generations, you look at my grandmother, her generation, that they didn't call it anything, but they prepped. It was just a way of life for them. That was, that my grandmother grew up during the Great Depression, so they knew to be ready for the hard times, to be ready for when things were lean, and canning and uh, preserving foods. They knew how to do it. They kept food on hand for the lean times. What if you had a bad harvest one year? You had to be ready for that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. And and like the Alabama said, we are not experts of anything. And and I find myself learning so much from you guys in the comments that a lot of times I wish that some of you guys will make videos. But
Definitely.
I kind of divide it in a few categories, and some of the things that you may want to think about your preparation plan. One is going to be food and water, and we're going to talk about each single one in specific. But one is going to be food and water. One is going to be security, medical, communication, and training. I think those five categories are really important when it comes down to security. And there's nothing wrong with making a checklist, and make sure that you have all those categories copy or addressed in some kind of way. And we need to understand that no matter how much we prep, something is going to go wrong.
Right.
So you're never going to be able to prep completely to the level that you want. You're never going to be able to prep completely, excuse me, to have every accommodation that you have in your basic life. If something happen, it's gonna suck. It's gonna be things that you're not gonna have. It could be anything from the internet to electric to water or whatever. But if you address those five categories, I think you're gonna be pretty okay. And the first one, like I said, is gonna be food and water. So to me, one of the best things to pack is rice and beans. I don't know. What do you think, Mama Owens?
Of my food preps, that is the bulk of it. Now, I do try to throw some, and I've never even actually done a video on how I do my preps. Mine are a little bit different from the way most people will take a 5-gallon bucket and get one of the big Mylar liners and fill that completely. I actually try to make mine smaller because I'm thinking, what if we have to be on the move? And I don't want to open a 5-gallon bucket of rice and then that rice is going to go bad in X amount of time. So I actually use the 1-gallon Mylar envelopes, and that's what I keep things in. That will hold about 2 to 3 pounds of rice in one of those, and the beans. It's a cheap way to prep, and with beans and rice, you've got a complete protein. You can live off that if you have to. I do try to throw, a can of Spam, a couple of cans of Spam, some kind of canned meat in every one of my buckets so that, you've got the fat content there, because that's something that you're going to be missing with just beans and rice. But no, it's the cheapest way to prep, and it's one of the quickest ways to prep, and you can live off of it.
Yeah. Actually, I know you've been out of YouTube for a while, but I made a video where I packed 120 pounds of rice. And I used 5 buckets, and I used the bags that you talked about, and I didn't really do a good job sealing the bag. I just got some of those oxygen absorbers, and
Right.
I had to reseal them. But yeah, I was very surprised of how inexpensive it is, and I'm gonna put those videos in the description box. But I was very surprised of how inexpensive it is. It's extremely inexpensive to stock up 20 pounds of rice or 100
Right.
pounds of rice for a very good price. And one thing that I kind of learned is that there's a lot of companies selling food out there, like long-term food.
Right.
You could save so much money by doing it yourself. You could go to Lowe's, you could buy the buckets, you could buy the bags from Amazon. Comes with the oxygen absorbers. You could do a search on YouTube, and you could learn how to stock up so much rice. And,
Right.
and it's just, I like what you said. Look, it's going to be a survival situation. You are not going to be able to have everything that you want, but you're going to be able
Exactly.
to eat. You
Yeah.
know.
And
Um,
you'll get your nutrition what you need from there. Now, you talk about the companies that do the prepackaged things. I do have a few things that are prepackaged, and I consider them niceties. I've got some freeze dried vegetables that are in a number 10 can that, that's I spent more on that one number 10 can than probably four of my pails of beans and rice.
mhm.
But I look at that as a nicety, and plus, it's 30-year shelf life on it,
Yeah.
so it's something that I've got for years to come, um, and just something for a little variety if it ever comes to the point that I'm using it.
Yeah, I do like the idea of having smaller bags because that's kind of something that I learned from doing this. Um, the next buckets that I'm gonna build, they're gonna be very smaller, so I could put rice, beans, excuse me, meat, and I could put more stuff other than just rice.
Right.
So I do like that. Now, yeah, I know you did a video about water in the past. Um, I mean, water is just so important. People don't even realize how important water
That's
is.
the thing. People don't even think about it, and that's why I actually have two videos on that. I did one. It's probably been a year ago, and I titled it "The Most Important Prep Period," because it is. You can go much longer without food than you can without water. Uh,
Yep.
so much of our body is made up of water. We use water for everything, and you got to drink. You got to stay hydrated, and that's basically a free prep as far as the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I started out prepping water was we'd finish a 2 liter Coke, look, a 2 liter soda. I'm from Alabama. It's a Coke. They're all Cokes. But we'd finish a 2 liter, and I'd take some dish detergent and some hot water, wash it, try to get it as sterile as I could, drop a couple of drops of bleach in there, fill it from the tap,
Yep.
seal it up. It's good for 6 months. That's water right there. That's 2 liters of water for, yeah, it's on your water bill, but it's pennies. I consider it free.
Yeah, yeah. No, you're right. And I remember one of the operations that that I was part of. I think the first five casualties that the Marine Corps had were dehydration.
Exactly.
So there we go, Marines attacking this place, and the first five casualties were guys that passed out just
Right.
because of the simple fact that they were carrying 80 pounds of gear and on foot for so long and just pass out. So yeah, water is definitely important. One thing that I learned so far, there we go, is that there's a lot of places out there. If you go to Craigslist or something like that, you may be able to buy some of the farm equipment, some of those big tankers where they save
Right.
yeah, they save a lot of water. So instead of buying brand new, they could be very expensive. Just going to Craigslist or something, you may be able to find some good containers. And I mean, you probably, I don't know if how good would it be to drink, but at least to have that gray water to do
Exactly.
dishes and things like that. All right, so we're gonna go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, yeah, you got to be careful with the 50-gallon drums. If you're going to use it for drinking water, you want to be sure that it was used for food grade products. But for gray water, you don't realize how much gray water you use. Washing dishes, taking showers, just day to day life, keeping things clean, washing clothes. You're going to need so much. If you've got, most of you've seen my setup. I've got two 55-gallon drums that are hooked to the rain gutter. So
Hmm.
I've got 110 gallons of gray water right there. And worst case scenario, I've got a filter. I can take that and filter that, and that's drinking water.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so we're gonna jump now. I know. This is actually a prep that a lot of people neglect, which is medical. Medical equipment. And I got to tell you, people, we're going to talk about all the things like training and things like that, but medical, you got to be able to have a good first aid kit that and a pretty good knowledge of things to do if somebody gets shot, if somebody gets a cut, things like that. And a lot of times we think, well, I'm not a doctor, that's definitely something very hard to learn and things like that. But to tell you the truth, it's not really that hard. I went through so many combat life-saving classes that, basic things like stop the bleeding, put pressure on the wounds, things like that. That's what I'm talking about. If you get shot, you need to know how to patch someone into the back, into the good guys get there to provide some type of support, and you need to have the ability to have that type of kits. Now, what do you think about medical? What do you think some of the things that we would take in consideration?
Well, you raise a good point because, people say, well, that's too difficult. I could never, I'm not a doctor. I couldn't do these things. But, you know, basically, if you're looking at a true prep type situation where you're going to need your preps, you're either A, going to have a hard time getting to a doctor or finding a doctor. And so you need to be able to do that first aid, that medical attention until you can get someone to a doctor. Or B, consider it's the worst case scenario. It's the end of the world as we know it, grids down and everything. Congratulations, you are the doctor. I've got a couple of medical books that, quite honestly, I've looked through them and I don't understand 90% of it, but I have that there as a reference. If things were to get bad enough that it turned out I was the doctor. And there's so much research material out there. I'm sure the Marines have it too, but the Army Field First Aid Manual.
Yeah.
There's a really good, basic, simple when there is no doctor. Good research material to have on hand. Yeah. But supplies, people won't think about supplies. We've got a couple of buckets that, just Band-Aids and antiseptic ointment, hydrogen peroxide. Guys, hydrogen peroxide is so good for so many things, and something that I think every prepper should have. And it's another one that it's so cheap it's practically free.
Yeah, and I got to tell you, I like that you said the reference book because, we are not going to be able to have all that information inside our brains. We are not smart enough. So you're gonna have two choices. Either A, you're gonna be part of a group that you're gonna have guys that have that expertise, or they are subject matter experts in that field. Right. Which I don't like that term, but that was a term that was for a lot, like subject matter expert. But at least you have some type of knowledge in that field that you could provide that type of support. Or B, you're going to have those references, so if something happened, you could go back to those references, open that book, and read through it, and attend to provide some type of support. Because like you said, if you are there and you are alone, you are that doctor. You are that authority figure that is going to save your family. They're not coming for you. So you're going to have to adapt and overcome and take care of business. So
yeah, exactly.
I mean, I've seen some pretty good kits on Amazon that have all kind of different stuff, but again, they're very expensive. You're looking at a full kit with a backpack, all that. You're looking at $300-400.
Right.
But again, I mean, I think the firearm guys, he told me something one time that kind of stuck up to me, and it was priority. You may have to set up priorities in your life. Right. And decide what do you want to buy, where you want to spend your money. So medical is something very critical. Go out there, not only train in your firearms, take a medical class. You'll be surprised how much you learn. And takes me to the next topic. It's going to be communications, and I got to tell you, communication is something that I was lacking on like big time. And I recently got 2 of those two-way radios because I got them for a very, very good price.
Yeah, I saw those.
And, they advertise 24 miles, but I got to tell you the truth. I test them out. I think it was like 1.8 miles or 1.5 miles.
Say 2. I bet you got 2.
Barely 2 miles. And I was pretty disappointed, to tell you the truth. But I still think they're good radios.
No, definitely. Those definitely have a place. Yeah. And, for if you're on a recon, if you're just 2 small groups, you need to communicate between the groups. Perfect for not traveling in a large group together if you had to bug out. that type of situation. If you're setting up patrols, something like that is perfect. Have one up, ideally in a second story of a house,
Yep.
as the comm center, and then your patrols each have one of those, and you're going to increase your range. Height. Comms is one of that's my bailiwick. That's I've always been into comms. So, one of the mantras for radio is height is might. So the higher you are, the better your reception is going to be, the better distance you're going to get. And to me, those GMRS, FRS radios, there's nothing wrong with them for close range.
Yeah, I actually got what I did with Dan is that I gave one to my kid, and every night when he goes to sleep, he takes the radio. And I actually, they do have an icon that if you press it, it gives this sound, like an emergency sound.
Right.
So I told him if anything is ever run, click on that, and it's gonna sound in my radio, and I know something is run. But my boys used them all the time. Like I'll be down here, they upstairs in the room, and we using them, or I'm in my room watching TV, and I do a radio check. I'll be like radio check, and it's funny because he always says radio check complete. I don't know where he got that from, but usually he said loud and clear.
Right.
He says complete, but yeah, very good point. I think they're very good if you're setting up some type of patrol, some type of security. You just gotta know, just like any other system, you gotta know the capabilities of your equipment.
Exactly.
That's it. And the Marine Corps spent millions of dollars in comm, and I gotta tell you, a convoy that is 26 trucks, and we're talking about the military. You won't be able to talk to the guy in the front. The guy from the front won't be able to talk to the guy in the back.
Right.
It happens all the time. So a lot of times we use that relay. You talk to the guy in the middle so he could relay to the guy in the front. That comes down to communication. But ham radios, what do you know about that? Because I've been actually looking into it.
Well, I'm a ham radio operator, and I don't actually got into it when I was actually in high school, and started out with CB, and it just wasn't enough for what I wanted to do, and got into ham. And guys, with the right radio, the right conditions, you can talk all around the world with ham. And now the test is so simple. You don't have to know Morse code. You can take a ticket so that you can talk across the country with a actually fairly reasonably priced rig, and it's not like it was back 30-40 years ago where you had to know Morse code and you had to spend all this money on a nice fancy rig. There's so much used equipment out there, with eBay and Craigslist and all that. It's getting to where it's very affordable, and it's really not that hard. And the tests that you do have to take now actually will help you in knowing what the capabilities of your particular rig is.
I'm actually going to go into that. I guess the only question that I had, I was trying to look into it, was if once you get that license of basic operator or whatever it is it by state? Because like trying to move, if you move to a different state.
You just have to notify the FCC of your new address.
Okay, so that answered my question. So I'm gonna go for that. That's gonna be one of my top priority because I actually sell them for you can buy a good rig for about $100.
Oh,
not
yeah.
too expensive.
Well, and now with and I know it's Chinese, but there's so many radios coming out of China now. There are actually 2-meter rigs, and that's a VHF, very high frequency rig. It's actually going to be close to similar to your GMRS radios that you purchased, but you have much more capability. You have access to repeaters and things like that. You can buy one of those now off of Amazon for $35.
Wow.
And so I've got several of those. And it's great emergency comms.
We need to do I think we need to do an episode just on radios because that's pretty interesting to me. And I got to tell you guys, communication is so important. You want to be able to know. I mean, just knowing. I know, and think it was 2004. We had the, I think it was called ISR, individual squad radios or something like that. But anyway, so it's just like a little microphone that you could talk to people, and just knowing, what the man in front of you is gonna do. I'm
Right.
gonna go right, I'm gonna go left, or I'm gonna be careful with this hole, and the ability of not screaming or not using your hands, just quickly passing that information. I'm
Right.
telling you, it saved life.
Well,
Because I got to tell you, if you turn around, you tell somebody with your hands, hey, there's a hole here, possible an IED. The bad guys are seeing that. The
right.
moment that you turn around, you point down, they're gonna squish that trigger, and you're dead. So, I mean, I'm talking combat, but we're talking about
Well,
survival
from
situation as well.
from a purely prepper standpoint, think of it this way: how many hours a day are you away from your house? In
Hmm.
an average day, you're gonna spend. You're at work 8 hours. Most people have a 30 minute to a 1 hour commute. So let's conservatively say 10 hours a day you are not at your house. Well, how are you going to get in touch with your family? How are you going to get in touch with your loved ones? Uh, you know, Back several years ago, we had tornadoes here in this area,
Hmm.
and for a short period of time right after them, we had cell phone service, and then it was gone. And it wasn't hit or miss; it was completely gone.
Yeah.
And so that, to me, that was a wake up call to me to get my communications plan in better order.
Yeah, I'm making that a priority. That's something that I need to work on. Not just me, and keep this in your family as well. You want to be able to communicate with your family, and
Right.
that's something that I was actually talking to my mother-in-law, because she's a big time prepper, and we were actually having that conversation, and that was something that I wanted to talk to you about too in the future. But all right, so communication, very very critical. We're gonna go into the next one, which is security, and that is pretty much the favorite one from every single prepper, because that means that we could buy cool guns, and
Exactly.
and we are all guilty. We are every single 99.9% of guys out there are guilty, because to tell you the truth, we spend our money in guns when we should have spent it in something else,
Right.
to like communication, medical, and things like that. A lot of times we do that, but security. First one is going to be guns. And what do you think should be a good for a starting guy, a guy that is just starting to prep, and it needs a good firearm? What would you recommend?
Okay. Well, you know, I
Say Glock.
I'm gonna say Glock 19, Glock 17. I'm a 26 man, uh, because I like that I can have one gun that I can use as a everyday carry concealed weapon, and then I can put a 19 or a 17 mag in it, and I have full size capacity. So you can't go wrong with a Glock. You can't go wrong with 9 millimeter.
Yeah. I got to tell you, when it comes down to 26, 19, and 17, I definitely would recommend the 19. But I don't really think, and there's definitely a different, probably somebody, shoots the rounds and they do this equation and this test, they're going to come out with a different and ballistic and all that. But for reality, for self-defense, I don't think it's going to be too much different between the 26 to the 17. I
Right.
just don't see. I mean, if you're shooting competition, I get it. But if you're shooting at that survival, self-defense, it's probably going to be at a close range. I don't think there's going to be a difference. I think you're pretty set with a 26 as well.
Right. Well, and one of the reasons, aside from the what I see as it being so versatile, is believe it or not, I'm actually a better shot with a 26 than a 17 or a 19.
Yeah, I definitely believe that, man. There's every gun is for. But all right, so I got to tell you, one of the things that I kind of talked about this in one of the last chats, and we were talking about guns, and I said get a shotgun, but the whole Ferguson issue kind of like changed my mind when it comes to that. Just seeing 30, 100 people breaking into a business and stealing, riots and all that, I kind of went to the idea that, don't get me wrong, a shotgun is great, but you need a semi-automatic weapon, something that shoots fast.
Right.
And I mean, we're talking about worst case scenario kind of thing. I'm sure some people say, well, shotgun, you take a shot, you kill somebody, everybody else is gonna run away. I would disagree with that. There is some bad guys out there that may not run away. We saw the lady on Detroit. She shot a bunch of rounds. The what
Right.
was it, 3 4 guys ran away and one guy stopped and tried to
Right.
go back inside the house, and then she shot again and the guy actually ran away. So pretty much he didn't care that she had a gun.
Right.
So I'm starting to recommend people to get an AR-15 or an AK-47, man. You know, VZ 2008, they're pretty inexpensive, about 375 bucks. SKS, something that is a semi-automatic gun that shoots a lot of bullets, a lot of rounds. So
Yeah.
that's what I'm gonna start recommending people.
Well, and
Um,
honestly, it's to the point for me now that there was a point in time when the SKS was very it had a lot of appeal to it. But to me personally, for the price difference between an SKS and an AK, I would go with the AK. You know, back in the days when the SKS was $200 cheaper than it was, yeah, that was a no-brainer. Go get a SKS. But now, you know, if you're within $150 of an AK by getting an SKS, just get the AK.
Yeah. And it goes back, and it goes back to priority. Priority. What do you want to get, and getting the right gun the first time. A lot of times we find we spend too much money and we don't get the right gun.
Right.
That is going to serve that purpose. Like I'm guilty to that. I bought several pistols and I still haven't finished that AR-15. I got the lower, and why I haven't buy the upper yet is because I saw a 1022 50-year anniversary and I thought it was really cool.
Right.
And then I got that car 45 ACP. In all reality, the upper is definitely more important than the car. But I
Right.
got caught up into that. I mean, we all do it sometimes. But I think a good semi-automatic rifle, a good semi-automatic pistol is critical. And once you get that, then go ahead and buy whatever you want. Guns are fun, so go into that. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
I got to tell you another thing. It's gonna be, and I watched a couple of videos on this. When it comes to security, it's just having an alarm. And we talked about it the other day. Either you have an alarm, and in some cases, you could just buy the sign and
Right.
put the sign outside your door, outside your house, and there's not an issue with that. I actually got the guy from the company told me to put the sign in front of my door because it's advertising from them.
Right.
So,
Well, and there's so many things along the lines of security that aren't things that are going to break the bank. To me, part of what I consider my security preps is a 25-pound test fishing line, because I can use that for perimeter alarms. Out around the compound.
yeah,
um,
such an excellent idea, bro.
I'm not advocating anything, but you can set up trip alarms with fishing wire, a mouse trap, and a shotgun shell.
Mm-hmm.
That
It
you
goes
can,
back
you
to
can use them
training.
completely as alarms. Not non-lethal.
No, you're right, and it goes back to training. It goes back to what do you want to do. Like I get these questions a lot. What do you do if this happen? What do you do if that happen? Like we need to open our minds and suck this information and come out with ways to protect our families. Like you said, I seen guys actually buying 4x4s and getting some of those things that you put inside your door and actually putting a 4x4 there to
Right.
lock the front door. I mean, that sounds very old school, but it could work. It could give you those 30 seconds. Somebody's kicking the front door. It could give you 30 seconds for you to get your firearm, for you to escape, for you to exercise your bug out plan, whatever. It could give you some time for you to react.
Right.
So just like the fishing line, that's actually a very excellent point. So you got any other ideas like that?
No, the other thing, and you and I both ascribe to this. I know, dogs.
Oh yeah,
Dogs are excellent security.
yeah, definitely.
Aside from the companionship, they're excellent to have for security. You will always know when somebody is coming up to your house if you've got a dog.
Yeah. I'm gonna add up to that too. Just some of the special gears that you may want to think about when in prepping is gonna be flashlights, batteries for the flashlight. If you have an AR-15, maybe you want to have some type of chest rig, where you put all your magazines, or plate carry. Some people
Right.
want to wear a plate carry. The only thing that I would say about a plate carry is to make sure you are physically enough to be able to carry that. It's gonna have a lot of weight, and if you're not in shape and you think you're gonna put a cool play carrier with 180 rounds AR-15 and walk around, you
They're
may
heavy.
want to. Yeah, they're heavy.
And
You may want to go
and
out for a
also
test.
watch your legal ramifications. It may not be legal in some areas.
Mm. Okay, cool. All right, so last thing for security, I'm gonna talk about just having plans. The what if game, we could what if something to anything, but at the same time, having a good plan is good. Having a medevac plan, medevac procedures. Bugging in, bugging out thing. If you have to bug out, how are you gonna do it? Where are you gonna go? And
Right.
how to get resources, how to get resupply, your home defense plan. And I gotta tell you, it's nothing wrong with you guys sitting down and actually making an SOP, a standard operation procedure, where you actually write it down, print it out, and put it in a binder, and of course you revise that every year or every whatever
Right.
as you do drills. But like that, the entire family can look at it and say, okay, this is what we're gonna do if this happened.
Right.
You know, and I mean, just talk about the field manuals for the army. There's so many field manuals out there that will tell you exactly what to do. It could go down to like bugging out checkpoints. Checkpoint number
Right.
one will be in I-95 and exit 201.
Right.
So like that, people know, because you won't be able to keep all that information to your brain, man. Having that information may be pretty critical.
Right.
Alright, so we're gonna go to the last category. It's gonna be training. What do you think about training? This is a good one.
Training is one of those that it encompasses so much. From what you were just talking about, having a plan. A plan is great, but if you haven't worked it, if you haven't had a dry run of it, if you don't know whether or not it will work, if you haven't made those tweaks that you see when you go through training, then you don't really have a plan. You just have an idea. Uh, you know, if you have a Glock 19 and you have an AR-15 and you don't know how to shoot them, you just got some cool toys.
Yep. No, you're absolutely right. Great point. And realistic training. It kills me when I see guys shooting the cool Remington 700s with the $2,000 scope, benching the rifle. I
Right.
mean, a lot of fun. I want to have one of those eventually, but realistic training, combat training, I definitely think formal training is critical. You want to have an instructor, but training starts with yourself. Just getting that play carrier and put it on and go for a 2 mile walk. That is
Right.
training. You
Right.
want to be able, how to do it. Just doing a basic drill in your house, where you home defense drill. You just scream, hey, a front guy coming through the front door, and seeing your family how to
Right.
react. That is training.
Well, and
Um,
you bring up a really good point there. There's so many preppers out there, and there's so many of them on YouTube that have a 80, 90 pound rucksack with no water in it, and they weigh 350, 400 pounds, and think they're going to bug out.
yeah.
I'm not being ugly. I'm just saying you're not going to do it. You're not going to make it 5 miles with a 90-pound rucksack, no water in it, and you're 350 to 400 pounds.
Yeah.
You're not bugging out to anywhere.
When I was in the Marine Corps, I used to tell people. I mean, I was in top shape. You know, run 7 miles like it was cool and all that stuff. And sometimes we push guys and guys will puke. I mean, I see Marines on 4 just puking, like dying. And people will say, well, why are you pushing them so hard? And I said, well, those guys are going to be in combat. The more prepared they are right now, the higher chances that they're going to have to survive and attack. If you pass out, the enemy, the bad guys are not going to say, okay, let me give you a five
Right.
minute break. And when I was in Japan, I was in this training, and we were supposed to go into this house and get out a high value target. So we hit the house, get out of the truck, go inside, get this high value target, and leave. And I kid you not, during the middle of the training, we got to call a stop. We had to stop the training. And one guy's like, stop, Sergeant, come over here. And I'm thinking to myself, why are we stopping this drill? So I go inside this village because, the Marine Corps have a village. I mean,
Right.
training is very cool. And I got 5 Marines inside this house, inside this, made up house, and laying down on the floor and drinking water. They almost pass out. And like I said, if that would have been real combat, if you had to go inside a compound or a village of Taliban to get a bad guy out of there, you would have died.
Right.
Because I mean, imagine that you're about to pass out. The bad guys would just kill you. So
Yeah.
definitely, guys, physical shape, physical fitness. I understand some of you guys can because medical reasons. I got medical reasons, back surgery and all that stuff. But just, try as much as you can. If you cannot walk for 30 minutes, but you can walk for 5, start walking for 5 minutes.
Right.
I guarantee you that 2 weeks from now, you're going to be able to walk for 10 minutes, and you start building from there.
Well, and Jarhead, that rings true with everything we've talked about. If you're not in good shape, start out slow. Start out just a little bit. If you don't have food prepped, then next time you go to the grocery store, buy an extra bag of rice. If you don't have water prep, next time you empty a 2-liter, fill it back up with water. Put it on the shelf somewhere.
That's it.
It's the little steps that will get you where you want to be. Sometimes, especially when people are new to prepping, they feel overwhelmed.
Mm-hmm.
And you just got to realize that, hey, I may not have everything I need, but I'm one step closer than I was yesterday.
Yeah, excellent point. The last thing I'm going to say about training this is the last one. It's going to be do an after action report. Like I said, if you run a drill for a bad guy breaking the front door, once it's done, sit down with your family and talk about it. What did we did right?
Right.
What did we did wrong? What can we do to mitigate what we did wrong and make it a right? And there are always going to be mistakes. It's not going to be perfect, but little things that your family can tell you. Hey, look, when I was going up the stairs, I had this issue. It was maybe you have some dirty clothes or something in the stairs. Okay, we need to keep the stairs clean because we're going to run upstairs. Little things like that, and I like what you said because it's the little things. Is don't think it's too hard, guys. It's not too hard. It's just like that Alabama always says, fill a little bit of water. You'd be surprised the amount of stuff you're gonna have in months. Like buying ammo, buy a box of bullets every paycheck. 6 months from now, you're gonna look into your rounds and you're gonna say, wow, I got 1,000 rounds of 9mm. How did that happen?
And not only is it's easier, it doesn't hurt you as bad when you look at your bank account, and it's probably going to keep you out of trouble too.
Yeah. All right, so we definitely appreciate you guys watching. We talked about 5 different categories. We talked about food and water. We talked about security. We talked about medical. We talked about communication. We talked about training. We could continue to talk about this for 6 hours, but just some of the things that you need to write it down and identify according to your needs what you need in each simple categories. There may be more categories out there. Definitely, I just this is some of the 5s that I put down. Anything you want to tell Alabama Owens? Any encouragement or something?
Just like I said, if you're new to prepping, or even if you've been doing it for years, little steps. Just realize that everything you do, every time you run a drill, every time you buy an extra bag of rice, you're that much better off than you were the day before.
Very good point. I got to tell you guys, me personally, you don't need to prep for 20 years. Get that out of your brain. You don't need to prep for 30 years. You don't need to prep for Chinese people coming down from the sky. I mean, that's something that if you want to do after, that's totally okay. Just start with the basic one. Uh, a month, 2 months, 3 months. If something happened, it's gonna take FEMA a month to respond, so you have a month of food to provide for your family. You don't need 30 guns. You just need a couple of good semi-automatic weapons with a good amount of rounds to defend yourself. Just start with the basis and then build from there. So um, definitely appreciate you guys watching. If you guys got any questions, put them down in the comments. As always, if you guys got any more intake or more comments related to this video, put them down. A lot of guys like to read the comments and get a lot of information. I think
And we
I
like
think
to
I'm gonna really.
we like to read them too. We learn a lot from them.
Oh yeah, definitely. I want to say thank you to all you guys that support us this year and last year as well. Coming into 2015, wow, man! I think we started 2013.
Yep. Yep.
So So we're coming up to 2015 doing YouTube videos. We definitely appreciate the support. I want to wish you a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year's, and I hope that you're spending a great time with your family and celebrating this such an important day that at least I know me and you, Alabama Owens. This is such an amazing time, man. It's
Amen.
just great. But all right, as always, like the video if you like it, dislike it if you don't like it. Share the channel, subscribe to the channel, share the video, and as always, God is in control.